Now, this is the Portland Building plant list. So as I mentioned, a lot of these plants are here, and a lot of these are new. We're finding that a number of these are doing well. This one right here seems to be doing well. Mensis. Anyway, and so there are a number there, and we will be reporting on those in subsequent years. And this is, as we mentioned last week, this is the BES O&M building.
We apologize, this isn't in your printout.
That's right.
And we just felt that it was too important to not leave out. So
right. This is this was planted in 2005. It went to the first 2 summers with kind of heavy irrigation by the contractor who had a 2-year contract. This past spring, we were up there looking at it. Everything was blooming, and it was beautiful. We have a lot of native species on this roof as well as non-native sedums. And what happened is when we were up there in about a month ago, we did not water it, we did not irrigate it through our entire summer. This past summer we just had no water whatsoever, no irrigation. So all of this, although it doesn't necessarily look like it's doing great, all this is the sedum album. We have mostly divergence back here. Here we have the rupestri in this area. We have Kamchaticum around in this area. And we had hens and chicks right in this area where you see all the grassy, weedy looking material. So this had basically all died out from being over-irrigated by the contractor. So most of what you don't see here was caused by over-irrigation, not by the lack of water we didn't apply. How do you say? So the water we didn't apply on this through the summer. So, and then just because it doesn't necessarily look real green, this spot right here, this is the spurium. You can see it's got all these flower heads on it, the spent flower brackets, which are brown. And they actually provide shade to the plants below. So I think some people don't like this look. It's not as attractive this time of year to see all these brown flower stalks, and it looks kind of like it's a lot of brown dead stuff. But I think it's beneficial to the plants as it relates to that particular issue. Yeah.
Are you going to talk about plant spacing at all? Recommended spacing?
We can at some point when we get to planting.
Where is that one?
This is it's on Swan Island, or near Swan. Wait a minute, not on Swan Island. It's next to Swan Island before you get onto it. So as you go over you make the first left, and I forgot the name of the street. You can't see this unless you're up on the bluff at the overlook area. There's a park there. You can kind of look down, and if you have binoculars, you can see it. But you can see it with your regular eye, but it's kind of far away, so it's not that much. But anyway, so this was really, really interesting. It's only 4 inches of soil, and it's survived all of that time. This past season. Now I'm going to maybe a few more questions about plants, and then I think we're going to take a break.
Yeah.
And then come back, and Dave's going to talk about soil and other things. Yeah.
I understand that mat concept you were talking about, where they put a lot of seeds in there, and you put the mat out, and they all fend for themselves, I guess.
Well, it's not seed necessarily. It's a vegetated mat. It's like a sod. It's like a grass sod that we normally have here. Where you make a lawn. So these companies have their sedum sod. Is another way to refer to it, I guess.
So I understand there's these aesthetic values for some of these roofs, but it sounds like a lot of these roofs out in the warehouses that we really want to get covered, the aesthetics aren't a problem. And to avoid the non-native species thing, have you got a test roof where you've just thrown all the native stuff out there and let them fight for themselves and see what really survives, what does the best?
Not in that particular way. We've only been looking at, for instance, the natives that we've seen on different roofs and said, oh, here's a native and it's doing really well and here's the conditions. But yeah, that's a good thing. We're hoping at some point in the future to have a facility, not necessarily that we have as a city, but there's a facility that would be an Ecoroof test center, which is what they have in Malmo, Sweden. They have 2 acres of rooftop that they converted and upgraded the structures so that they can test different products. They allow companies to have their products up there, and then they have questions that the university, two universities in the Malmo area are interested in asking questions about something like that, or many other questions. What's the best soil? What's the best plants? What about aesthetics? What about food? What about habitat? And all the questions you can think about. What about energy, insulating the buildings? So they try to look at all those issues, and they have a really good facility and in that location. So that's kind of a dream I have. Like, wouldn't it be neat if we had something like that in the Northwest, and we were sort of like the center of the Northwest in a sense? And yeah.
I'm just going to kind of throw this idea out there, that here in the Northwest we have a lot of mountainous scree plants that aren't sedums. There's things like Louisia and I'm not sure what else. But if there's anyone here who knows anything about those or has tried them, anybody? Okay, but that might serve as an extension of our palette.
Right, that's what I was saying earlier, is that
Yeah.
there are a lot of natives, perhaps even hundreds of them, maybe dozens, I don't know, but that we would be great to try. So I think anybody that's doing a project, and if you're going for a grant, if you say, oh, I've got this project and I'm going to test, of course I'm telling you all at the same time, so if you all say the same thing, then you'll all be equal. We're going to test 5 different species of such and such, and because Alice did mention that somebody said, is it first come, first serve? It is kind of, but there are criteria that you have to meet as well. So if everything is equal and you have something that is unique, such as testing, that might or might not make your application better. I don't want to say. Yeah.
From my work with stream restoration, I mean, it's, of course, it's not the same context as this, but it's basically the case where if the streams you're not going to be able to manage intensively, where basically go out there one Tuesday every three months and just kind of check on it, that you pretty much need the plants with an invasive profile, so to speak, to basically be able to just kind of go out there and leave them alone. That basically in our environment, in the intermountain range, the climate's fairly stable, so there's no reason for the plants to develop these fairly aggressive invasive behaviors. I mean, this is one of the reasons like spotted knapweed and purple loosestrife just kind of went crazy here, is that they came from environments that they were a little bit more disturbed fairly regularly, where our native plant just never had to deal with that. It's only when we came along and started changing the time cycles very quickly that we started creating openings for all these invasives. So, I mean, I agree that we don't want to create additional problems by bringing in non-native plants and have them be evasive. But if you want to minimize the amount of invasive plants, you're going to be inherently increasing the amount of labor you have to be using to take care of the care and feeding of them.
Thank you for your comment. I really don't want to I don't want to get into the discussion about natives and non-natives too much, because I'll bet we have people here that could just kind of have lots of information to share. So we just want to give you this information now. That's something that maybe we'll have something, maybe we're going to have what would you call them, other types of conversations, not necessarily seminars, but maybe we would have more conversations about what about this issue of natives and non-natives, and points like that, as well as many other points that can be made by different people. Somebody else had a hand?
Yeah, I had a question. What kind of weeds are you seeing when you put these
Oh,
in?
we'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
We're seeing a lot of weeds. Well, actually, I don't see very many weeds, because I have a different perspective about plants than a lot of other people, that when I look at it, I go, oh, that looks great to me. And they go, oh, it's full of weeds. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. So now I'm going to, let's take a break. Yeah, okay. One last comment.
I wanted to touch back on something that was said last week about why doesn't EcoTrust just use wetland plants? Because we had such a problem with the soil mix and drainage. The biggest problem was irrigation in the summer. Wetland plants don't like to be in an inch or two of soil that's not watered for 3 or 4 months. And when we did water, all we got were really weeds growing in between everything. So that's just one more reason why to use succulents, because then you can just taper off the water, and a lot of the opportunistic weeds couldn't make it.
Right. right, and we'll get to that as well. Okay, thank you. So come back at 25 after.